Polls show the vast majority of Americans support the expansion of background checks when it comes to gun purchases. They also support so-called red flag laws.
And now, after two back-to-back mass shootings, public anger could move lawmakers to finally take action on legislation for tougher federal restrictions.
We've had great sadness over the last many hours, but now it's really turning to anger. Anger about the lack of movement on gun control.
Yeah, we're all still emotional about this in terms of how we address these issues. And some who may know that when we start talking about assault weapons, you know, being a Vietnam vet, and I understand clearly the damage that those type of weapons can inflict upon individuals. And they have no place in the hands of average everyday citizens.
Joining us this morning is retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. She worked exclusively in patrol divisions and was assigned to gang units. She's the author of the book, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. So just to get us all up on what the current process is for background checks for firearms.
So currently right now, a person would fill out an application with the licensee. It goes to the National Instant Criminal Background Check, NCIS. They do a database search, and 3 days later, you get a gun. It's just that simple.
Folks have heard about the loopholes, though, and they hear gun show loopholes, and I wonder if you could explain what some of the loopholes are.
So it's very easy to purchase a gun at a gun show, much easier than it is if you were to go into a brick and mortar establishment. There are straw buyers. I could go in and purchase a gun for you and then give it to you because you can't. There are parts that you can buy after the fact that will make a gun untraceable. So there are a lot of ways that someone who shouldn't be in possession of a gun can get their hands on such a thing.
How exactly would a universal background check work, and then what agencies would enforce them?
Well, ATF is ultimately responsible for everything that has to do with guns, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Local municipalities, we get involved when we respond to a call for service, when there's a domestic violence or there's some kind of an issue and someone may be in possession of a weapon. We get to make a determination whether or not that person gets to keep the gun, right?
And is that we've heard about this red flag law business, and I believe in California we already have that, where law enforcement, well, tell us how it works here in California and how would it work federally?
So if on a radio call, for instance, if I'm able to determine based on a conversation that I'm having with someone whether or not I should remove a weapon for the safety of all involved, then I have the ability to do that. With regards to background checks, what I think would be helpful is that if we were to put a civilian through what we put police officers through, right? Because people don't self-report. And so wouldn't it be nice now that we're hearing from classmates and people who knew and worked with these individuals that he was a bully or he was involved in domestic violence? As a police officer, when I wanted to come on the LAPD, they talked to my neighbors, they talked to folks I went to school with. Why not do that for an average civilian before you allow them to have a gun?
And right now, if when I purchase a gun, I obviously am not required to undergo any sort of training. When you joined the department, you spent how many hours on the gun range learning how to fire your weapon? Absolutely,
but listen, training and, you know, who can ultimately get a gun is not the problem. The problem is it's high-powered weapons. It's weapons that go through walls, in some instances, armory that officers wear. It's the availability of a double-barrel magazine, extended clips. And so why would a regular person need all of that? There's much being said about mental illness, and so I don't think we want to criminalize mentally ill people, right? I have the ability as a police officer to take someone into custody for 72 hours on a 5150 hold if I deem that you're a danger to yourself, to others, or you're unable to provide care for yourself. But to just go around and involuntarily confine people because they have mental illness is not the way to go.
I also want to ask you, you know, we hear a lot about the fact that many of these people had said things or put things out online, and people knew that they were possibly going to be dangerous. They sometimes go as far as to say they are going to be dangerous and kill people. What advice do you have to all of us? And they say, law enforcement says all the time, we need everybody to get involved and say something when you see something or hear something. And there's sometimes people feel discouraged that is anyone going to listen? Or if I'm wrong, you know, and I make a claim about someone and it's not the case. I think there's a lot of confusion. And if I call the police department, what happens then?
Well, that's why I think it's so important in the midst of that background check to go out and proactively talk to people who know. Because again, if I'm doing a background application, if I'm completing an application, am I going to give you the name of my neighbor that I don't get along with, or somebody who
Right.
really knows me
Right.
really well, right? I'm going to give you the names of the people that are going to say I'm amazing and I really should have a gun, when really right 2 doors down is someone who knows I should not. And so that's why I think it's so important to do a thorough, in-depth background investigation and look at, not at the places people send you, but at the places they don't send you.
All right. Once again, Cheryl Dorsey is a retired LAPD sergeant and author of the book Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. Check out her website, and you can also follow her on social media. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.